Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Elmhurst City Council for September 3rd, 2024 to order. And I'd ask if you'd all please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Tamer, please call the roll.
Cahill.
Here.
Toludo.
Here.
Park. Here. Udera.
Here.
Bastido. Absent. Nardini. Absent. Brennan.
Here.
Irby.
Here.
Deuter.
Here.
Beremus.
Here.
Hill.
Here.
Schenko.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Graham.
Here.
12 present, 0 absent.
All right, 12 present, 0 absent. We have a quorum. Item 2 on the agenda is the receipt of written communications. Is there anyone that has a written communication that they would like to deliver to the council? So please raise your hand, other than the ones that have been sent to us in advance. Come on up, please, and present it to the clerk. Mr. Altergard over here. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other written communications, we'll move on to public forum. Public forum is an opportunity for anyone to address the council on any subject they so choose. Given the fact that there are a number of people who will want to speak and the council has other business, we will limit your comments to 3 minutes so you don't feel like you're being ignored. Know that we do not respond or engage in discussion following your public comment. We hear it. But we are not going to engage in the discussion from the dais. I will ask you to step to the back microphone, not where the podium is, behind it. Please state your name. Address is optional, but that helps us to follow up with you if it's necessary. So with that being said, Clerk Tamer, has anyone signed up for public comment?
Yes, Mayor. The Children of the Green Space.
I have some of their recordings, the Children of the Green Space. Well, it's not a band. So, Dr. Henry, is this going to be like people speaking at once or one at a time?
I think we were thinking they would just line up, if that's okay.
Very good, however you want to do it.
Okay, perfect. You guys want to come up and point? Just line up.
My name is Mae Redinger. I think we should save the green space because it is one of the only nature places people can go in Elmhurst. To climb trees and have picnics, to be a kid and spend some time with your family, just to have fun. That is why I think we should save the green space.
My name is Kylie Jensen. I'm in 4th grade, and I think the green space is extremely important to our community because we use the green space for lots of things, like to have picnics, to run and play, and lots of fun memories are made there. The green space provides a lot of fun. It is a good spot to play, to have, roll down hills, have a picnic, or just relax and read a book. You could have a lemonade stand, walk through the trees, sketch, have a brain break, or simply just some time alone. I also remember the time when we had a field trip to the green space to have lunch and recess. We played tag, rolled down the hills, played Jenga, flied kites, blew bubbles, and had a picnic. It was a fun memory to have. I would be devastated if the green space was gone. That is why I think we should save the green space.
My name is James Gasway. I live right next to the green
Listen,
space.
students or whatever, make sure you pull the microphone you're talking right into like I am here so we can all hear because we do want to. Thank you.
My name is James Gasway. I live right next to the green space. I'm in 4th grade at Field School. I don't want to lose the space because my friends and I play sports there and we couldn't do that anymore after our houses. Please consider leaving the space so we could have a neighborhood area to play. Thank you.
My name is Evelyn Black. I'm in 5th grade at Field Elementary School, and I think that we should save the green space because it's such a fun way to
make new friends, and it can be used for many different things. The moms like to do yoga, the boys like to play baseball, the girls like to do gymnastics, we can sled in the winter. It can be used for so many different things, and I think it's a really good idea to keep it because only 6% of Elmhurst is open space.
Hi, my name is Layla Gasser. There are more than 60 mature trees in the green space that help us breathe. We sled, have picnics, and lemonade stands there. The green space means a lot to our community. Thank you for taking time to listen to us today.
My name is Seth Lohan. I ask you to keep the green space as it is. My friends and I use it every day to play soccer, football, capture the flag, and sledding in the winter. So it's also safest way to get to field school. Please do not vote to allow new houses to be built in its place.
Good evening, City Councilors. My name is Dalo, and I'm a student at Field School Elementary School, and I'm a 5th grader. I ask you can keep the green space from not being developed into homes. It is a great space to run around safely and to enjoy nature. We do not have any close parks nearby, so it's the only way to gather and play safely. Please do not vote and allow to homes to be built in this place. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jack Enright. I go to Field Elementary. I want the green space to stay because my friends and me like playing sports and having fun. Please save our trees, thank you.
Hi, my name's Ivy Pollins, and I'm a 6th grader at Sandburg Middle School. The reason you should vote to keep the green space open is because the green space is not just a space, it's part of our community. It's filled with fun and laughter, and losing the green space would be like losing an old friend, because I spent many hours playing there when I was younger and still do. I hope you consider the value of our green space to our city. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Charlie, and I am a 4th grader at Field Elementary School. I like to play a lot of games in the green space, like capture the flag, soccer, tag, and ghost in the graveyard with my friends. When I think about the green space getting taken away, it makes me feel really sad. It also makes me think about the pregnant moms in our neighborhood whose children will not be able to enjoy the space like I have these last several years. I have also met many friendly dogs in this space and their owners. It would be sad for them to not take walks through the green space. Please vote to save the green space. It means so much for all the families in our neighborhood. Thank you so much and have a good night.
My name is May, and I like to play capture the flag in the green space.
Hello, my name is Lainey Enright. I turned 6 on Saturday. I'm in kindergarten at Field. I love to climb trees in the green space.
Hello, my name is Cece. I am a 4th grader at Field Elementary School. The green space is so important because there are a lot of animals that have homes in the green space. I have seen bunnies, bees, foxes, coyotes, worms, birds, including a hawk, skunks, and squirrels. The animals would be sad because their homes would be destroyed. I also love to play in the green space with my friends, neighbors, and family. We play capture the flag, tag, and hide and seek. I also love to climb trees and play soccer. Every day I walk to school and back using the green space walkway with my friends. I feel safe in the green space since there are so many trees. Please save the green space for the kids. Thank you and have a good night.
My name is Harper Silliandall.
I've almost lived here for 5 years, and it is sad that you're trying to take this away from us. You are taking away our fun Easter egg hunts and the place that we could get out of the house and play and have fun. Save the green space, not just for me and but for everyone.
All right, thank you, Green Space Children, for coming out and talking to the City Council this evening. Clerk Tamer?
Kelly Henry. Yep, Kelly Henry, yep.
Don't need the step stool, surprisingly. Okay, I don't know if I could follow that performance, but good evening, City Council and Mayor Levin. My name is Kelly Henry, and I live on Joanne Way with my husband and twin fourth grade daughters. We have lived in this beautiful area of Elmhurst for the last 6 years. The green space behind our home is what initially attracted us to this area. As we were looking at homes, it was sadly became a reality that there is very little green space left in this community. As I reflect on our last 6 years living here, the green space is what makes Elmhurst our community that we love and cherish. Most of the people here we have met for the first time in the green space. People come to walk their dogs, take a leisure walk with friends. Community members are biking and running. Children come to run and play all year round. My children have met so many new friends for the first time in the green space. This is our close community where we know people of all different ages and backgrounds because of the green space. It is the glue that brings our community together. Every day as I look at the green space, I feel blessed and so lucky to live in the great city of Elmhurst. Elmhurst is a town where people who grew up, they want to come back. There are 3 families alone on 2nd Street that grew up in this town, some of them still living on the same street now. They wanted their families to experience the love for this neighborhood and everything this lovely green space has to offer our community. This is what Elmhurst is all about and what makes our city so unique. The very thought that this beautiful park could be taken away, bulldozed, and sold is gut-wrenching and makes me feel sick. The park that the city was given for free from the hospital to be sold to the highest bidder is devastating. The park is alive and bustling every day with children walking safe to school in the mornings and in the afternoons. The sidewalk providing a safe route to school each and every day for these children. The field 3rd grade class even took a field trip to the park last year for an afternoon lunch picnic and to play under the trees. Over these last few years, I have met a lot of you. I know you are all very good people who care about the citizens in our city. This is why you ran for this position. I also know that you all know what the right decision is to make for our children's future. If this green space comes down to a vote, I want you to remember all of these faces looking at you right now. All of the hundreds of kids who utilize this space, walking to and from school, going on bike rides, playing capture the flag, digging for dinosaur bones, and being safe and kids in this safe and beautiful place. And all the hundreds of kids who will come after them in the future. Once this green space is gone, it will never come back. And these kids, as they grow older, may not either. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Jake Gassay.
Good evening. My name is Jake Gasway. I didn't really have a plan on speaking tonight when I came here, but I saw these kids and I thought it would be right to say a few words. I live right next door to the green space, and I grew up in Hammond, Indiana. Some of you know some things about Hammond, some of you don't. But I can tell you, where I grew up, kids didn't have quite the same opportunities as these young kids do today. And my parents' favorite term, and a lot of kids' parents' favorite terms in Hammond, and you all very, very well may be familiar with this term, but it was just go play, right? Parents just said go play because we weren't overscheduled. We didn't have a lot of devices to keep us company, and we had to just go play. Fast forward many years, I've lived in Michigan, South Dakota, California, and when my wife and I wanted to have a family, we figured it would be best to get back to the Midwest because this is a place where people still have a lot of great values. And we found this location in Elmhurst. And when we walked into the trailer when they were selling these places, we said, why is this place still available? It was right next to a green space. And the lady said, well, it just came on the market today. And my mind immediately flashed to this green space and what it could mean for kids and growing up and playing there. And I said, whatever it takes, that's the one I want. And now, fast forward even further to a time when COVID changed everything about how we work, how we live, how kids play. And I work from home a lot. And I'm fortunate enough that I have the opportunity to work from home, and I look out in that green space and I see all these young kids playing in the winter, playing in the fall, learning how to play catch. And there's no infrastructure there. They're just out there playing. And my hope is that you consider a time when we were all kids and realize that if you take away a place like that green space, you're taking away a place where kids just go play. Thank you.
You?
Raina Gassar.
He's really tall. Hi, my name is Rena Gasser. I would like to comment on the green space between Schiller and 3rd and the written document shared last week as public record by resident Christy Ainge. We would like the Finance Committee and the city to consider the fiscal details of redeveloping the green space. The city real estate assets referral memo suggests the city could sell the land and develop 10 to 12 buildable sites, with each expected to value about 1.5 million, resulting in a total projected city revenue of 5 to 6 million over 15 years. Ms. Ainge has previously commented on the city ordinances, which make 10 to 12 buildable sites highly unrealistic. The city ordinances require this space to remain open in one of two ways in order to maintain residential block sizes. Those options are 1, keeping the green space as is, or 2, to reconstruct Avon Road and revert the cul-de-sacs at Elmhurst Avenue and 2nd Street to through streets, and this is for emergency vehicle access per the fire code. Either of these options would directly and significantly reduce the number of buildable sites possible and reduce the total projected revenue over 15 years. This would leave space for far fewer buildable sites to generate revenue for the city. Further, consider the construction costs that the city might incur to reconstruct Avon Road from Schiller to 3rd. As a baseline for you to compare, consider the First Street Sanitary Improvement Project, which is listed at as a $1.5 million project per the city's 5-year capital expenditure budget. This improvement project is considerably more simple than reconstructing Avon Road. And because of this, there's a possibility that selling the green space for residential redevelopment is a near-term zero revenue, or even worse, a net loss fiscally for the city. Council was provided further detail with last Monday's written communications. I hope you will consider how selling the green space has the potential to be a financial risk to the city and investigate further before making a decision. This has major implications, not only to the local neighborhood that surrounds the green space, but implications to all of Elmhurst fiscally. The green space as is provides so much benefit to the city by means of stormwater management, recreation and safe passage, and sustainability. Please reconsider the thinking of this space as a simple land asset, and instead think of all the positive ways Elmhurst can enjoy it. The city center can use it to put on events the way that it does all over Elmhurst. Or you can consider entering into an intergovernmental agreement with the Park District. Either of these options allow this space to continue being an asset to the Elmhurst community, rather than a one-time small debt and paying a bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Austin Cohen.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor Levin. My name is Austin Lohan. I'm fortunate to be a property owner that is adjacent to the green space in question on 2nd Street. I'm a lifelong Elmhurst resident, run a business here, and as you can see, raising the 2nd generation of my family on the same block that I grew up on and in the green space. Being right next to the green space, I have a front row seat to all that it has to offer. Back in the day when the hospital stood, it was a quiet haven for nurses and doctors while preventing noise pollution from ambulance traffic, large parking lots, and parking garages. Today, this green space still has an invaluable purpose that I witness daily. Hundreds of people use the green space and the Avon sidewalk for safe passageway for their kids to get to field school. Bikers, walkers, husbands, wives, families all walk, run, listen to podcasts, watch birds, and relax in the space. Field school teachers, either by themselves or in small groups on their lunch breaks, talking, laughing, crying about how school is going or how bad our kids are in class. City employees on their breaks, work calls, using the peace and quiet of the green space to clear their heads or enjoy a few minutes of peace before returning to work. And these are just a few examples. I implore you to exasperate all asset options for your new police station before this one, because once it's gone, it's gone. I would also encourage you to review the very detailed report submitted by Christy Angie to the Finance Committee last week on the proposed green space asset sale and how the numbers do not add up to the proposed sale amounts. Also in respect to the reconstruction of Avon Road for the number of proposed houses, fire code, fire truck apparatus, and as it relates to the cul-de-sacs. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Kelly Zelminski.
Hello, my name is Kelly Zelmansky. I live at 120 Pine Street. I'm here this evening to shed light and perspective on the green space located between 3rd and Schiller Streets. I grew up in Elmhurst as well, and remember this area as the old hospital. Coming back to Elmhurst with my husband and 2 young kids 15 years later, that same space is now where we spend so much of our time, riding our bikes through, meeting with friends, picnics. You've heard all the things that we've been using this space for. My family and most of our neighborhood walk our kids to field school through that area as well. It's a nice, safe space. They only cross 2 streets to school. This small green space has become a staple in our community. It serves as so much more than a small sliver of open area in between the new development homes and existing homes when the hospital was still there. It has held some PTA events, charity events, and so much more. I'm here as a member of the community letting you know that this area is very unique, utilized space that is important to a lot of Elmhurst residents. This space has become an aid in growing relationships, memories, and it's a big part of why we actually feel like our neighborhood is special. It is unique, being that there's not a lot of other green space. Please consider contractually extending the number of years the space must remain as it is, or consider entering into an intergovernmental agreement with Elmhurst Park District to keep that land as green space. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Flanagan.
Hi there. I'm Karen Flanagan. I live on Argyle. I'm pro green space team. I'm here actually advocating for and talking about the neighborhood steady traffic number 3. Thank you for taking the time to consider the concerns of our residents from Argyle, Mitchell, and surrounding streets. As evidenced by a petition signed by over 130 of our neighbors and numerous public appearances and public comment submissions by many of our neighbors, the neighborhood is clearly and overwhelmingly opposed to increasing the speed limit from 20 to 25 miles per hour. We have challenged those in favor of the speed limit increase to explain clearly and persuasively why the potential benefits of the increase outweigh the potential costs and dictate totally ignoring the concerns of the residents who will live with the impact. No one has been able to do that to date. Alderman Hill will argue in favor of the increase based on the following points: the financial investment in the study and adherence to its recommendations, the desire for the consistent speed limits across Elmhurst residential areas, the desire to avoid setting precedent where residents' concerns might influence city decisions. Notably, none of his arguments mention, let alone consider, public safety, arguably the most important mandate of his committee, which, by the way, is in addition to this council's mandate to be a representative for and a policymaker on behalf of the very Elmhurst residents whose concerns have been articulated. The arguments against the increase are many and are based on not only basic principles of public policy and economics, but also common sense. I'll focus on appealing to the council's common sense. Here are the punchlines. The streets in question are unique, and in this area, there's been 20 miles per hour for decades for a reason. There's a hidden train track at the end, at the hill of Argyle and Eggleston. There are no existing speed limiting measures, such as stop signs, speed bumps, or the ability to park cars on either side of the road. There is also close proximity to York High School. The study itself reports that our streets are being used for cut-throughs and are already experiencing speeding issues. People generally think it's fine to go 5 to 10 miles per hour over this posted limit without consequence. In fact, at least one committee person acknowledged that he himself perceives it to be fine to go 6 miles per hour over a posted limit. It's obvious that increasing the limit will only exacerbate the issue that the neighborhood is already experiencing. The potential costs of the increase, pedestrian injury or worse, fatality, vastly outweigh the potential benefits, again, none of which have been persuasively articulated. The residents are flatly against the increase. See this petition that was signed by 130 persons, garnered over a 48-hour period, all the public comment and public appearances. The study's recommendations are just that, recommendations. The committee has the freedom, the council has the freedom to and should take seriously and not ignore the specifics of our area and the anecdotes and desires of our residents who have to live with the outcome on a daily basis. On these bases, we expect the council to grandfather the 20 mile per hour posted limit and approve the report as revised by the majority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenny Chain.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jenny Chen, and I'm a resident of 414 South Argyle. I'm here to speak about the neighborhood traffic report number 3, as Karen before me did. So I think I just wanted to address a few of the arguments from the minority report, which is in favor of increasing the speed limit from 20 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. So one argument that we've heard from Alderman Hill and the mayor is that changing the speed limit will not change motorist behavior anyways, because motorists doesn't pay attention to these signs. So I argue that if you believe increasing the speed limit doesn't change anything, then why increase the speed limit? Why waste taxpayer money to change the speed limit signs? Why do it when the said taxpayers are asking you to keep the speed limit as is? There's about 135, to be exact, neighbors in the affected areas who have signed a petition for keeping the speed limit at 20 miles per hour. Another argument from Alderman Hill is to follow the report exactly as is, because it is based on data. Well, that I believe is a very broad argument and an excuse. Nowhere in the report is there data to substantiate increasing the speed limit is beneficial. In fact, all the data show that 85 percentile speed limit down the affected streets are 27 to 32 miles per hour, which is 7 to 12 miles per hour higher than the speed limit. The only argument the report used to increase the speed limit is in the name of consistency. Show me what data supports a consistency claim. I haven't seen any so far. Lastly, I want to emphasize that we're not asking for the entire traffic study to be overturned. Out of the multitude of recommendations from these reports, we're only asking this council to not adopt one recommendation. And by not adopting this one recommendation, we're just asking you to keep things as status quo. I don't think anyone has been able to say keeping things status quo is detrimental to the safety of the neighborhood. Please keep this in consideration as you vote tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Barb Gallagher.
Hi, I'm Barb Gallagher. I live at 396 Mitchell, and I am opposed to increasing the speed limit on Mitchell and Argyle from 20 to 25 miles per hour. We don't have to go with what the study proposes. It's okay to adopt most of it or part of it, but we don't have to adopt the fact that we, the citizens on Mitchell and Argyle, do not want the speed limit increased to 25 miles per hour. A possible solution to this concern is to perhaps consider installing speed bumps on Mitchell, Argyle, and Garfield. I am not aware of the possibility of installing speed bumps has ever been talked about or considered in the discussions with the City Council and those of us who live on Mitchell and Garfield, and I'd like you to consider speed bumps as an alternative. Thanks.
Kylie Jensen.
Okay, sorry about that. Tom Altergott. Sorry about that. I don't know which one's yours.
Good evening. My name is Tom Altergott. My wife Therese and I bought our house on Rex Boulevard 42 years ago. We have enjoyed our many years here in Elmhurst until this spring when the house next door to us was knocked down and construction began. The builder excavated up to our property line to install window wells in the interior side yard setback. This caused significant damage to the edge of our property, including the loss of a 6-foot section of our patio, which unfortunately, in reference to tonight, was our loss of green space. When we objected to city officials about these window wells, we received a letter which stated, and I quote, "The zoning ordinance is silent as to window well setbacks." The zoning ordinances being referenced to are Zoning Ordinance 2281, General Requirements D1, which states, "Yard requirements shall be as set forth under each zoning district. Front, side, and rear yards shall be provided in accordance with the regulations hereinafter indicated and shall be unobstructed from the ground level to the sky." And Zoning Ordinance 2246, Bulk Regulations, C1, which states, "Permitted obstructions in required yards. The following shall not be considered to be obstructions when located in the required yard specified. In all yards, unroofed steps 4 feet or less above grade, which are necessary for access to a permitted building, unroofed terraces, chimneys projecting 12 inches or less into the yard, arbors and trellises up to a maximum of 16 feet in length, flagpoles, and fences or walls subject to applicable height restrictions of Article 12. I'll let you decide if you think the code is silent on window wells or not. Were window wells included in the list of permitted obstructions that I just read to you? Do you consider that 20 linear feet of concrete with a 50-foot square foot iron grill that protrudes a foot above ground qualifies as level with the ground? I don't. I do not feel the city has acted in the public's best interest, and its decision to disregard these two ordinances has caused my family tremendous hardship this summer. We are stunned and dismayed that the city plans to change our zoning ordinances to make window wells legal in the interior side yard setback, knowing full well this will endanger people's safety and damage their property. We ask that you reconsider this proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Dan Virgil.
Hi, Dan Virgil, 598 South Fairview. I'm here to speak about the reports that came from the Public Affairs and Safety Committee about traffic study number 3. The specific issue that I want to talk about is the streets that are currently 20 miles per hour where the KLOA consultant has recommended to raise to 25 miles per hour. I know that some residents that live on the streets in question have requested that the speed limits be left at 20 miles per hour. I understand their concern. They don't want drivers speeding down their streets due to an increased speeding limit. I assume this is why the aldermen wrote the majority report as they did, which leaves the 20 mile per hour speed limits in place. However, this is not actually how speed limits work. Speed limits are a poor way to regulate vehicular speed. This might seem counterintuitive, but it's actually true. And it's not just my opinion. You can find this documented in many official government sources as well as by industry experts. Speed limits are only a minor factor in the actual speed that most drivers drive. Most drivers take their cues regarding a safe maximum speed from the design of the street and the current conditions. These can include the width of the street, whether there are sight lines that are clear or obscured, whether there are obstacles such as parked cars, the number of intersecting streets and driveways. These are all inputs that give cues to the driver. Using these cues, drivers drive at a speed that feels comfortable and safe. We can see the fact that drivers rely on these cues by the 85th percentile speed data included in the traffic study, which documents the speed at which 85% of vehicles are moving at or below. In the vast majority of the residential streets in the traffic study, the 85th percentile speeds are between 25 and 30 miles per hour, regardless of whether the speed limits are 20 or 25. This is not surprising given that the designs of the streets are all very similar. They're all 22 feet wide and have clear sight lines with many driveways and with intersecting streets at about the same intervals. In fact, it's a very common practice for U.S. traffic engineers to do a study to determine the 85th percentile and then set the speed limit at the nearest 5 mile per hour multiple. This helps keep speed in a narrow range, which improves safety. It also means that most drivers will be following the law, which is the posted speed limit, rather than making them lawbreakers. So when I read the majority report, two thoughts occurred to me. First, we know from the traffic study that many drivers are not currently following the speed limit on the 20 mile per hour streets. The majority report does nothing to address this. If the alderman signing this report felt strongly that 20 miles per hour is the right speed for these streets, then why didn't they take other actions to try to calm speeds? There are ways to do this such that the street gives drivers cues that 20 miles per hour is the maximum safe speed. This doesn't even require expensive fixes like reconstructing the streets. Second, if the majority report is not looking to actually slow traffic, then these aldermen must be comfortable with the current speeds. If this is the case, then they should accept the traffic consultant's recommendation for the 25 mile per hour speed limit, since the actual driver speeds are unlikely to change given that the street design cues aren't changing. I don't fault the residents for not being familiar with this. They are not traffic engineers. They just want the streets to be safe for their families. I wish the alderman signing the majority report had dug into the issue more and utilized the expertise of the consultant so that they could be familiar with and understand how their policy decisions actually impact this issue. I respectfully request that you vote in favor of the minority report.
Thank you.
That's it, Mayor.
All right, that is the end of the list of those who've signed in to make public comment. Are there any in the audience who want to make public comment but did not have the opportunity to sign in? All right, at this point, I know that many of the Green Space children have school tomorrow. You're welcome to stay and see the other exciting work we're going to be doing tonight, but the Green Space will not be on the agenda. So I'm going to stand in recess for about a minute if people want to take a break and leave, and then we'll resume. Let's resume the meeting. Thank you, everyone. We're on to item 4 on the agenda, announcements. Are there any announcements from the dais this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll go on to the consent agenda. Clerk Tamer, please read the consent agenda.
Hold on 1 second. That's right, it was not printed today. Okay. I do. It wasn't printed. Thank you. Oh, it might have been in the front, actually. Thank you. Minutes of the 5.1 minutes of the regular meeting of the Elmhurst City Council in August. Can you hear me now? Is that better? Okay. Minutes of the regular meeting of the Elmhurst City Council on August 19th, 2024. 5.2 accounts payable September 3rd, 2024, $4,019,366.87. 5.3 report case number 24 P13 Gambino conditional use for a plan unit development with site development allowances 125 to 134 North York. 5.4 report facade grant request Clear Heights Properties 730 North York. 5.5 report case number 24 P12 Rise Townhomes PUD 256 through 260 North Addison. 5.6 report case number 24 P09 Elmhurst University amended PUD 190 South Prospect Avenue. 5.7 report franchise agreement with Zayo Group LLC. 5.8 report Elmhurst Park District 2024 Fall Fest. 5.9 report request to deaccession artifacts from the Elmhurst History Museum's collection. 5.10 report 2024 sanitary sewer and manhole rehabilitation project construction engineering services. 5.11 report 2025 sanitary sewer and manhole rehabilitation project design engineering services. 5.12 report case 24 P04 York High School amended conditional use permit and variations. See item 8.1. 5.13 report Adele and Adelaide parking structure 2024 maintenance repairs project. See item 9.1. 5.14 report Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program. See item 9.2. 5.15 an ordinance amending section 4.18 entitled Foreign Fire Insurance Tax Board of Chapter 4 entitled Boards and Commissions of the Elmhurst Municipal Code. 5.16 an ordinance amending section 44.137 entitled Issuance and Sale of Parking Permits of Division 5 entitled Free Parking Lots, of Article 7 entitled Stopping, Standing, and Parking, of Chapter 44 entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic of the Elmhurst Municipal Code. 5.17 an ordinance approving the execution of a non-exclusive license agreement by and between Elmhurst University and the City of Elmhurst, DuPage, and Cook Counties, Illinois. 5.18 a resolution authorizing the issuance of a notice of award and authorizing the execution of a contract for the purchase of the 2024 fire hydrant materials. And 5.19 a resolution authorizing the execution of change order number 2 for the South and West Tower rehabilitation project to additionally include rehabilitation of the North Tower and additional rehabilitation work for the West Tower for the City of Elmhurst, DuPage, and Cook Counties, Illinois.
Thank you, Clerk Tamer. May I have is there any item on the consent agenda that any alderman would like to remove, either for further discussion or to vote against? Alderman Hill.
Thanks, Mayor. 5.13.
5.13. Anyone else? All right, can I ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 5.13? Alderman Cahill with a motion, Alderman Shanko with a second. Clerk Tamer, call the roll.
Cahill.
Aye.
Toludo.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Nudera.
Aye.
Bastido.
Aye.
Nardini absent. Brennan.
Aye.
Irby.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Barimas.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Shanko.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Bram.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. The consent agenda minus 5.13 is adopted. Clerk Tamer, would you read the report for 5.13?
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Works and Buildings Committee that unit price bid from the lowest responsible bidder, J. Jill and Company, for the Adele Adelaide Parking Structure 2024 Maintenance Repairs Project be accepted and the city attorney be authorized to prepare the appropriate documents. Furthermore, consultant fees were negotiated, saving the city $7,000. However, negotiation delayed the project. In the interest of starting the project as soon as possible, the committee recommends that the council suspend the rules to allow approval of said documents at the same meeting. Signed, Alderman Emily Bastido, Chair, Alderman Brian P. Cahill, Vice Chair, Alderman Michael Bram, and Alderman Karen Shanko.
I have a motion to put report 5.13 before the council. Alderman Bastido with a motion, Alderman Cahill with a second. Alderman Bastido.
Thank you, Mayor. Clerk Tamer said everything I was going to say about this, so I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, further discussion? Alderman Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment about this agenda item. I'm not voting against this agenda item, and I appreciate the work that staff and Public Works has done regarding it. But when I was looking it over, I did realize that, counting up the costs of this parking structure, we're looking at, I didn't add them up formally because I hate to do addition. But that being said, it looked to be around $500,000 on this in the last 6 years. So it's not really an argument against Adelaide, which I think, as far as I understand, is a full parking lot. But I think with ridership down on Metra in the last few years, I think it's 40% down over its peak. and it doesn't seem to be coming back in quite the same order that we've lost it. I hope that we take a chance with that and combine with the fact that new developments in downtown Elmhurst kind of maybe offset or obviate the need for parking, and that they have their own parking. Perhaps we can use this as an opportunity going forward to look at the utilization of our decks. I know that was looked at part of the parking fund fee increases, but I think I'd be interested to see what sort of long-term strategies we have if we have decks that are mostly underutilized. That being said, I do support, of course, the maintenance work that has to be done to keep these parking decks in functioning order, but perhaps there's other options for the future regarding other decks in town. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Clerk Tamer, call the roll.
Cahill.
Aye.
Toludo.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Nudera.
Aye.
Bastido.
Aye.
Nardini absent. Brennan.
Aye.
Irby.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Barimas.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Schenko.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Bram.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. Report 5.13 passes. Item 6, committee reports. 6.1, majority report on the neighborhood traffic study. Clerk Tamer, please read the report.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Public Affairs and Safety Committee that the City Council approve the neighborhood traffic study, area number 3, final report. The city consider budgeting dollars in the future for the implementation of the recommendations, and that the city attorney be authorized to prepare the necessary documents, including any municipal code changes for City Council approval. Signed, Alderman Michael Brennan, Chair, and Alderman Guido Nardini. Not signed, Alderman Jacob Hill, Vice Chair.
We have a motion to put 6.1, to pass 6.1 before the council. Alderman Brennan with the motion. Alderman Udare with the second. Alderman Brennan.
Thank you, Mayor. So before council is a majority report for Neighbor 3 traffic study. To refresh everyone's memory, a report of Neighborhood 3 was on our agenda May 20th, 2024, but was brought back to committee to further discuss increasing speed limits on streets east of Spring, south of St. Charles, west of York, and north of Seminole Avenue in Eggleston. Residents in the area raised concern of raising the speed limits from 20 to 25. It's been 20 miles an hour for a long time, longer than anyone could ever really tell me, but it's been at least 30 plus years, so it's decades in the making. There is some reason that the speed limit was changed to 20 way back when. The PA&S committee met numerous times to discuss the pros and cons associated with the following KLA's recommendation to increase speed limits to 25 or grandfather the existing 20 mile an hour speed limit. As you already know, the committee was not unanimous in our point of view at the end of our deliberation. The majority report recommends to leave the 20 mile an hour speed limit as is, thus grandfathering it in this area. The 85th percentile speed data collected by KLOA indicated the vast majority of the streets in the area were not within the typical speed limit range for 20 miles an hour regulated street. It makes no sense to me to increase speed limit to 25 and run the risk of this cut-through traffic increasing their speeds. We had good discussions on they won't, but there's no guarantee. And I think it's human nature to push the envelope when it comes to the speed limits. Many of the complaints I get as an alderman are related to residents complaining about cars speeding down their neighborhood streets. Thus, it's illogical to me to increase speeds anywhere in the city of Elmhurst. It just doesn't resonate as a logical thought. Some might ask, why are we paying thousands of dollars for a consultant and then not follow their guidance? My response to that would be, there are hundreds of recommendations in this 58-page report from KLOA, and overriding one recommendation based on logic isn't diluting the value of the consultant's recommendations at all. One quote in the report, I can't get it out of my head. It states, "Courts typically only uphold tickets when they're 8 to 10 miles an hour over the speed limit." For me, this quote alone screams to keep the speed limit at 20 miles an hour and increase the visibility to the speed limit signage. The residents have been very present throughout our deliberation. I'd like to thank them for coming out, being very professional, constructive in their comments. As Chair of Public Affairs and Safety and a 7th Ward Alderman, I'm asking for your support on the majority report. Thank you.
All right, additional discussion? Alderman Hill?
Oh.
Alderman Hill?
You'll forgive me, process question. If I was to make a motion for the minority report, would I do that now?
You may do that now.
Oh, thank you. So
Alderman Hill?
I'd like to make a motion to substitute the majority report with the minority report presented tonight.
Is there a second? Alderman Cahill. All right. I'm going to let Alderman Hill present the minority report. This is one of those situations where they're kind of mutually exclusive, not saying that there won't be amendments to anything along the way. I don't anticipate them here. But generally, when we have the minority report before us, we would vote on that first. We will. If the minority report is successful, if this motion to substitute the minority report is successful, that becomes the report that's before the council. We will turn our attention solely to the minority report to either approve or not approve it. If the minority report is not approved, then we will go back to the majority report. Given the fact that we have one issue here, which is the majority and minority reports both adopt the entire recommendation of the consultant, except the minority report is talking about changing the speed limit, I think we can talk about them at the same time, unless anyone has an objection. When the discussion on the topic is reached a conclusion, we will vote on the minority report, and we'll proceed from there depending on how that vote goes. Is there any questions of how we are proceeding? All right, so at this point, I'm going to ask Alderman Hill to present the minority report, then we'll open up for discussion on either report. Alderman Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. So if there might be some confusion about what the difference is between these two reports, I was hopeful that we could bring some sort of document that outlined the actual differences between the two. But the first thing I can say is that you've all seen the minority report too, because it is identical to the report that was before you on May 13th at the City Council meeting then. This was a report that was approved by committee and presented and was only pulled back in the face of public comment. So I think that's an important point to remember. But I want to say that since we've discussed it, we've had very cordial and polite conversations with my fellow aldermen on committee, always being respectful, even though I always don't agree with those jerks. I think we always, I'm kidding, even though we always don't agree about things, I do appreciate the continued discussion and in-depth analysis on this topic. And I would agree with what Chair Brennan said, that it's no exaggeration that speed is one of the biggest concerns in Elmhurst. I would agree. I deal with speed concerns and questions more than any one issue, which is why I'd say it's the most critical part of these traffic studies, and it's something that we're going to have to address tonight before we move on. I think the purpose of this traffic study originally was to use data to make decisions, so they weren't subjective, so they weren't anecdotal, so they were something driven by something other than ourselves, right? We could point to a study and say, this is what we collected data for, so the decisions weren't arbitrary or changing. And I think part of that is collecting street speeds. Why did we collect street speeds? What was the purpose of that? Obviously, we want to see the speeds of vehicles on our city streets, but was the only purpose of that to possibly lower street speeds? No, there's probably a lot of reasons, but I think they lead to uniformity, right? Uniformity is not about raising or lowering, right? Uniformity is bringing things consistent. I hope we didn't think that when we saw the initial recommendation back in the pilot study and traffic study 2, did we think uniformity meant that we were only going to lower speeds on Elmhurst streets? I mean, I don't see it. We didn't look at it that way with another issue like liquor licenses. We didn't, raise liquor licenses necessarily or lower. We brought them into line with each other. That was some raising, some lowering, right? So we don't use that criteria when we think about uniformity. Another thing is that we've already increased speeds on city streets. We increased the speed on York, in downtown York. There was a posted school zone sign there. It's still there, even though we've changed the speed limit to 25 miles per hour between 3rd Street and the train tracks on York. So whether we agree with it or not, we're all complicit in already raising speeds in one of the busiest areas of town. I would submit that if we don't need speed studies to make changes other than lowering speeds in Elmhurst, we've already got a map of what streets have 20 miles per hour. You all have that available. And I want to say that there's 20 mile per hour speeds all over Elmhurst. This is not a one-time change, nor would it be fair to say it's a one-time change. What are we going to do about other 20 mile per hour streets? Some would say that they should all be grandfathered. Some would say that these streets need special consideration. I've got safe routes to school streets in my ward with no sidewalks. Do they need consideration? Unfortunately, we've already voted on that traffic study, right? And traffic study number 2 on 3rd Street where there's no sidewalks and it's a safe route to school. So I think it's a little bit disingenuous to say that safety counts in certain areas when we're already passing studies where maybe I should have said something on that study, and I did notice that when we passed traffic studies 2, but I was open to the idea of uniformity, the value of it. Do drivers know the posted speed limit when they're pulled over? Our police department says no. It also, if you look at the data on page 13 of traffic study number 3, which I'm sure we all poured through that page by page, it's fascinating reading, but it is interesting reading, and I'll say on that, we can see that no matter what the speed limit on various streets, they're going about the same speed. In fact, one of the fastest streets was, I believe, Prairie Path Lane, which had higher speeds, even though it was a 25 mile per hour speed. I wasn't seeing concern necessarily for that street with respect to its speed limit. So I think we're getting stuck on a posted speed limit that might not mean as much as what the data indicates, and it's why we collect it. So my report argues to stick with the recommendations of KLOA, which have worked for Mount Prospect and, as evidenced by their report, have helped to reduce accidents and increase safety in that community. I think there is a value in being consistent. I think if we don't stay consistent and go with the majority report, which gives an exception, there's a lot of other exceptions here to be given. And I'll be the first one to go back and say, I'm going to put in a referral for all the streets I'm concerned about. Maybe that's the way it should be, but I don't think that's why we did the traffic study this way. I think we tried to get away from that, right? From making special cases everywhere in Elmhurst. Some would say maybe we should lower the speed limit across all Elmhurst. I'm open to that discussion. That makes a lot of sense to me. The problem is we're 2 studies in now. So we have to decide to do that. We have to make that something we want to go and change. That's outside the scope of this report. Maybe we should go back and do that. I don't know. That's why we hire traffic consultants to give us information and advice, and that's why I agree with the empirical evidence they collect. I'm not saying I don't understand the residents' concerns. I do. My kids were playing in the street tonight. We have no sidewalks. Actually, they have a school near them. They still play in the street and do many things they probably shouldn't be doing. Whatever. That worries me too. But to say that only parts of Elmhurst are of concern because they're residential and cut-through is wrong. We have cut-through residential streets with high speeds everywhere in Elmhurst. And if we're going to do it for one, I want equity and uniformity for all. And maybe there's other ways to accomplish this. We've heard some tonight. That's my thoughts on it. I urge you to adopt the minority report that was already placed before us back in May. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alderman Hill. Further discussion, Alderman Nudera.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank the Public Affairs and Safety Committee for their time and healthy debate over the traffic study in Area 3. I would also like to recognize the residents for their perspective and observation as stakeholders in their neighborhood. I am in support of the majority report and will cover a list for my reasons. Number one, the speed limit has been 20 miles per hour for many decades in this area of Argyle, Mitchell, south of St. Charles, and north of the Canadian National Railroad tracks. Number two, KLOA has made a recommendation through their traffic study to stay consistent with speeds across the city that this area be changed to 25 miles per hour. All recommendations should be looked at by the city on how these changes will impact the neighborhood. One-size-fits-all mindset is not always the best option. Number three, the neighborhood geographics. This area is cornered by streets with high traffic volume at different times throughout the day. St. Charles, York Road, Spring Road, and a portion of the railroad tracks on Eggleston. So it can be assumed that during heavy traffic periods as well as off periods, the neighborhood is subject to motorists using these streets as cut-throughs. Number four, these streets are rather tight, making it a challenge at times to navigate through the parked cars and other large vehicles, creating a line of sight restriction. Number five, as for now, there is no stop sign on Argyle and Garfield and Mitchell and Garfield that would require a driver to slow to a stop at the intersections. These two intersections are what we call uncontrolled. The city received a recommendation 2 years ago to place stop signs at uncontrolled intersections and replace yield signs with stop signs. City Council approved this recommendation. When this recommendation was first came through PA&S to control all intersections throughout the city, I asked why we would pay the asking price for the study when we just addressed a main portion of the perceived problem the study would eventually reveal. It seems that a controlled intersection of Argyle and Garfield, Mitchell and Garfield, would be a positive impact in the neighborhood. 6, drivers already exceed the posted speed at 20 miles per hour, encouraging even higher rates of speed if the speed limit was to change from 25, placing more risk on pedestrians, cyclists within the neighborhood. In summary, 1, speed limit has been 20 miles for many years, miles per hour. This has been a recommendation, something we should look at independently. This neighborhood geographic forms cut-through streets. These streets are narrow. Number 5, intersections are considered uncontrolled, no stops, yield, or traffic light or police officer. Increasing the speed limit may encourage high speeds. And 7, if it isn't broke, let's not fix it. Let's just control it. The speed limit of 20 miles per hour is needed to move motorists safely throughout the neighborhood, creating a clear line of sight for the driver, pedestrians, cyclists, and all involved, assuring the residents a low-risk environment. To quote the words in a song by the Beatles, written by Paul McCartney, "Let it be, let it be." Thank you.
Thank you. Credit to Apple Records. Further discussion. Alderman Bram and Alderman Deuter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to thank staff as well as the committee on their evaluation of this issue. As at least two, Alderman Brennan and Alderman Hill, and I'm sure anybody else who speaks will speak to the fact of traffic issues are probably the #1 phone call that you get, email, text message, what have you. And I understand it. It's in regards to not only the parents that live in the area, but the children, safety concerns. I can relate to Alderman Hill's statements earlier, and in that regard, a good portion of my ward does not have sidewalks. But all of my ward, or I shouldn't say all, most of my ward is 25 miles per hour. My ward also sees, just like probably any neighborhood, sees cut-through traffic as well. But it's not what my gut says and what I would like to see, it's what it comes down to the data. And I spoke with some of the residents a few weeks ago when the report was on our agenda back then, prior to it being pulled back to committee, bless you. In regards to look at the data closely was my recommendation to all the neighbors. Look at the data, see what it has to say, see what it tells you. And my evaluation here after, and Alderman Hill already touched on this, so I won't go in depth, but I look at the data, and the data tells me 25 miles per hour is appropriate. I did this many a times in regards to stop signs, yield signs, any type of device. I held this binder up many times over my 21 years. And this is a copy of the MUTCD, the Manual Uniform of Traffic Control Devices. In this book, in this standard guideline, whatever you want to call it, and I printed out the 2 pages that talks about speed limit. It talks about when assessing, when determining what the speed limit should be on a street, that you need to utilize the 85th percentile. Obviously, you're not going to use the exact number of, say, 27. We'll have random speed limits all throughout town. But with that said, every single street here, according to the 85th percentile, should at minimum be 25 miles per hour. There is a case or two, Cottage Hill being one, Prospect being another, where the 85 percentile was 32 on Prospect. The 85th percentile for Cottage Hill is 28 and 29. So you could say that that should be rounded up to 30 miles per hour. I'm not opening that can of worms. I'm not suggesting that. What I'm trying to highlight is that the data speaks to me, and the data says that 25 miles per hour is the appropriate speed limit to be posted in this area. It seems like a lot of the concerns is in regards to Argyle. And I understand the cut-through aspect, and I actually did drive it for numerous times earlier today in regards to the railroad crossing there and how would that actually impact. I don't see that being a major impact, and obviously KLOA didn't either to recommend a lower speed limit in this area or to maintain it. Now, I've said many a times, I've been here for many a decades now, it seems. I received this from the police department, I don't know, by the design of it, it looks like it was made in the 80s, but there's actually no date on here, so I don't know exactly when, but at least 20 years ago. And this is showing that the police department was touting in the neighborhoods 25 miles per hour. What happened in this area and other parts of town that are still at 20, I don't know. Maybe they were missed. Maybe they were purposely put at 20 miles per hour at that time, as Alderman Brennan has already stated. After all the research, staff has not come to a conclusion on specifically these streets and why they're at 20 miles per hour. My personal opinion is they were just missed. I don't know, Scrivener's here, I don't know what happened. But just because they are at 20 miles per hour doesn't mean that's the appropriate speed limit to have there. Again, the data is the data, and the data speaks to me saying it should be 25. Just a couple more points in regards to what was already stated. And that is in regards to narrow streets. Narrow streets actually is a traffic calming mechanism, and I think one of the residents here today spoke to that. Van Alken, the street that I live on, it was debated for a time to put striping on this street to attempt to slow down traffic. Stop signs, yield signs, those, again, mentioned in the MUTCD, are not to be used to slow down traffic. That is the opposite purpose of stop signs. So I understand that that's what everybody seems to be appropriate, but I've witnessed on my four-way stop intersection that people slow down, sometimes roll through, and then hit that accelerator even harder to make up for that handful of seconds that they just lost because they were inconvenienced at that intersection. So I support substituting the majority report with the minority, however you're supposed to say it.
Support the minority report. I think
Minority report. Due to the fact on what the data has shown me after reading through KLOA's report, traffic study. Thanks.
Alderman Deuter, then Alderman Park.
Thank you, Mayor. I support the majority report. You know, I think when we think back to why we started these traffic studies, it wasn't I mean, there were a couple of reasons. As there has been wide acknowledgement, speeding is the top concern that we all hear about. For that reason, some people request stop signs. They think that a stop sign will help speeding in their neighborhood. And specifically, I think what we tried to avoid by looking at traffic at a neighborhood level is a consistent pattern of traffic control signs, right? Where are we going to have stop signs? I think we've all approached stop signs where you expected it to be four-way stop, but it wasn't, or you were stopping and the other side didn't have to. I mean, there's something about approaching an intersection. You want that consistency, that familiarity. That's why we started these traffic studies. That's the consistency that I believe we're looking for. We analyzed the speed data, and I think in the first study, which came through when I was on PA&S, the speeds data indicated where there should be different types of enforcement. We had some signs, permanent speed feedback signs that were posted or recommended to be posted. I think that's why we were capturing that data, not to justify an increase in speed. It's not why we were looking at the speed data. So I think, we're not in my opinion, we're not making a decision to lower the speed limit for this area. That was made before. We are supporting the recommendation of leaving it what it is. I don't believe that there's a strong recommendation to increase it. I think if consistency around speeds, if someone's confused and they're driving down a 25 and they're going 20, that's okay. I think that makes our neighborhoods safer if that type of inconsistency means people are driving more slowly. I support the majority report. I think as we think about a community, how important it is to encourage kids to walk, encourage kids to bike. I think leaving this the way it is supports that goal for our community.
Alderman Park, then Alderman Jensen.
Thank you, Mayor. I support the majority report. While I highly value learning about best practices, especially about something like traffic, signage, and safety that I am not an expert in, and have access to consultants who are looking at other communities and municipalities and how in our ever-evolving world with Waze on everybody's phones and cut-through streets and things like that, how we manage it. I want to know if we've got it down in Elmhurst, or if there's things that we can improve, and what other communities are trying and seeing success with. I love that we have access to that and we're able to do that and analyze it and discuss it. I do, though, take all of the recommendations that come through out of that and then say, well, why are we here? We are here to take the recommendations and then connect the dots to see what does it fit for our community and what is not. And I feel increasing a speed from 20 to 25 in an established neighborhood that has a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit for decades, I think since the inception of that neighborhood and when it was built, from my recollection of history, that this one little recommendation out of all of the other goodness that came out of that is just not applicable for our community. There are going to be special cases. That's why we have humans up here who are helping look at this information and decide what the people in that area have seen, what they experience, what's going to be best for that neighborhood. If it were just numbers and an algorithm, none of us would need to be here. So, and while I value consistency as well strongly, I feel it's just forcing it in this instance. Fair does not always mean equal, and I don't think it's confusing to anybody that the actual value of the speed limit. I think people, I have faith that people will be able to be aware of their surroundings, and I don't see that inconsistency of going to a few streets in a neighborhood where it's lower will be something that will be detrimental. So. That being the case, I am all for grandfathering in that area. Keep their 20 miles per hour speed limit. Thanks.
Alderman Jensen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the committee and staff for all their work on this. I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't realize we had some 20-mile-an-hour speed limits on residential streets, and I'm glad this discussion made me aware that we do. I'll bet that most drivers are sort of like me, where it's been ingrained in my head since I took driver's ed many years ago, that it's 25 miles an hour on any residential street unless you're around a school. So when I'm in residential neighborhoods, that's the assumption I, to this point, have been working with. I'm usually looking for kids running into the street, not looking for a speed sign that might be slightly slower than 25 miles an hour. I think standardization as a general policy is good, but there are situations where exceptions could be warranted. Our traffic consultant, city staff, and especially our highly regarded police department, in their opinion, their expert opinion, all support the original report, as does the data in the report. If we want to make our streets safer, and I think we do, we should explore implementing traffic calming ideas that are more effective ways to manage speeds on residential streets and add better pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. This is a topic on which reasonable people can disagree, and I think we've seen that. And on this one, I'm supporting the original minority report. Thank you.
Alderman Bastido.
Thank you, Mayor. So the data that we hired experts, humans, as Alderman Park said, to track and provide us shows that the speed is pretty much the same around Elmhurst, whether it's posted 20 or 25 miles an hour. So if the goal is to calm speeds around Elmhurst, then posting 20 or 25 mile an hour signs is actually the least effective way to do that. So I encourage police and staff to keep taking measures to calm speed all over Elmhurst because there are very effective ways to slow down drivers. So the goal of the minority report, which follows the experts' recommendations, is not to increase speeds in Elmhurst. The goal is to make all of Elmhurst safer by creating uniform speed limits. So I rely on this method all the time with my own residents in the 6th Ward. A recent example is 2 intersections where the neighbors thought there were a lot of wrecks and that there needed to be stop signs added. And the way we handled that was that the police pulled the data, tracked the crashes. In one intersection, it showed that, yes, there was an increased number of wrecks, and so that intersection got stop signs. The other intersection showed that, no, there was not an increase in wrecks, and so they did not. And it was a tough decision to make, and I didn't like telling the residents that what they perceived as a really dangerous intersection actually wasn't, and I'm sorry, but we're not going to give them stop signs. But that was the right thing to do because the data didn't support what they were saying, and I thought it was best to actually rely on the data and to make all of Elmhurst safer by putting resources where they were needed. So the methodology in the minority report is the furthest thing from reckless or dangerous or trying to increase speeds. This is how we should be making all decisions regarding pedestrian safety, and I support the minority report.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, so, sorry, Alderman Irby.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate the great comments from the Chair Brennan and Vice Chair Hill and all the comments on council. I attended a couple of the PAS committee meetings on this, and I was impressed with the deliberation they had. It was thoughtful, considerate. The residents came out and spoke. It was a role model of civic responsibility on both sides. I want to thank everybody for that. The comments that private citizen Dan Virgil made were pretty much my argument, and I appreciate those comments greatly. I've heard several people on council say, why did we do the speed limit, or why did we measure the speed? And there's a reason we did. It's in the report. It's on table 2, page 11, and it has the 85 percentiles, which is kind of difficult to understand. I am not a traffic expert. I started this morning in Traffic 101, and I think I might have got 10% of the way through Traffic 101 class, so bear with me. On that table, it has yeses and nos on which streets and segments are compliant to decide, should we change anything, up or down? As we've all discussed, it's not just a one-way street, it's a two-way street on our speeds. And there are 11 streets that are not compliant out of 26. That's 42% of our streets in traffic study number 3 that are not compliant, that have a no in the right column on table 2. The two key ones in there are Seminole and Prospect. If we moved the speed limit up to 20, from 20 to 25, and with their speeds as they were documented in the table, they would still not be compliant with our method that we use across the entire country with our traffic studies, not just ours, but everybody's. So that is the reason why I think we did the traffic. So there might be some other reasons, but that's what the consultant told us. And I think it's quite valuable to absorb that and find out really what does it mean. And Seminole is a perfect example as well when you look at it as far as traffic calming. Seminole is a wide street. It has houses on one side, and it's got the greenway along the railroad tracks to the south. And people fly. If you look at the data on Seminole, it's marginally different than the whole region. It's got an average speed of all 100% of the traffic at 25 miles an hour, and the peak is at 30. When I say peak, the 85 percentile. That means people are probably going 45 to 50 miles an hour on the high end, like the 98, 99, 90 percentile. That also probably means there's a few people doing 4 miles an hour, pulling out their driveway, looking at real estate, whatever, just flat out getting older like me, and I slow down because I don't feel safe as I get older. And so it makes you wonder, why is this average speed not that high when I see all these people going down the street fast? And that's the reason, because of traffic calming and everybody's comfort levels going down the street. Seminole is basically a racetrack compared to the other streets. The other one is Eggleston is not compliant. Eggleston's a cut through both from York, St. Charles, and Spring Road. I mean, it is the main cut through for all of them, and it has problems as well. The 4 traffic accidents on average at Eggleston and Spring Road are problematic. You can't see the cars coming out because of a 2-car parking area in front of the chiropractic clinic there at the corner on that southwest corner. It's a mess. Many times I've had to lock up my brakes and come to a screeching halt there. That's not a part of the traffic study tonight. Well, it actually is. It is a part of, not on the report, but it is a part of the study, was that fact I just mentioned. So I lean back to the original report that came out, which is the minority report, and I just don't see how I can argue against it with all the key things that are in the report, which is enforcement. So in the report it says enforcement is the #1 critical item, no matter what sign we post, no matter what speeds we have, and we find out after the fact that the speeds aren't changing enough. Well, it's going to come back to enforcement, or we as our town have to slow down. This is us speeding. It's not a whole lot of people from Villa Park or other towns. It's us. And I think we need to own up to that. And do we need traffic enforcement to own up? I don't know. I wish we didn't. So I think this doesn't come down to signage. I think it comes down to enforcement. That is the true issue in the room tonight, not the speeds signs. And that comes out on table 2 of the report. And that's why I'm banking my vote for the minority report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Irby. Additional discussion? Seeing none, I will clarify. The motion before the council for the first vote is to substitute the minority report for the majority report. So we're voting on the minority report. If you vote aye, you're saying you want to substitute the minority report. If you vote nay or no, however you like it, then you're saying you don't want to substitute. Everyone clear? Any questions? Clerk Tamer, please call the roll.
Cahill?
Aye.
Toludo?
Nay.
Park?
Nay.
Nudero?
Nay.
Bastido?
Aye.
Nardini absent. Brennan?
Nay.
Irby?
Aye.
Deuter?
No.
Verimas?
No.
Hill?
Aye.
Schenko. Aye. Jensen.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
7 ayes, 6 nays.
7 ayes, 6 nays.
Does it have to have a supermajority?
7 ayes, 6 nays. The motion to substitute the minority report fails.
Oh,
No?
it passed.
Yeah,
7 to
that's it.
6.
I got, it's the other way. All right. The minority report passes. So it substitutes. And we are now going to be talking about the minority report as before the council. It is now the report. Is everyone clear on that? Sorry, I didn't, had to clear something up. Alderman Ramus?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes. The minority report is now the report before the council for approval or not. All right, so any additional discussion on approving the report, the minority report? So,
I have a comment.
yeah.
Oh, no, question, sorry.
Question, go ahead.
No, I don't have a question.
All
I
right,
have a
Alderman
comment.
Hill?
Just a clarifying question, Mayor. So if the minority report is before council now and it is not approved, then what happens?
Well, then the study is not approved. So the minority report essentially is the majority, is the report before council now. Okay? All right, so is there any additional discussion on the report before council, which is the minority report? All right, so we're voting to pass it.
I have
Alderman-
comments, yep.
Alderman Brennan, go ahead.
Yes, no question, just a comment. So, I am respectful of the process, without question. As I look at the data, I think it's a little backwards that we reverse engineer the speed limits on a street based on the traffic on the street. I really do think we have issues with cut-through streets, and it may, even Alderman Hill commented, I think it's Glade. So I'm not convinced there's not more work to be done here, because I think it is a legitimate concern that I have as chair of PA&S. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but I will not be supporting the report because I think the recommendation is logically unsound, respectful of the data, and so I will not be supporting it. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Alderman Veramus?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to make a comment that when we did the pilot study, which was in our ward, Ward 1, Alderman Deuter and myself, Elm Park has a speed limit of 20 miles per hour. That has not been changed. We passed the pilot report, left it 20 miles per hour. It was not increased to 25. So I'd like to state that. And I do not see a downside to leaving the speed limit 20 miles per hour in this neighborhood, or quite frankly, on any of the 10 streets that it exists in Elmhurst. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Alderman Deuter?
Thank you, Mayor. I too respect the process. I appreciate that we've brought in the consultants. They've given us their best recommendations. I appreciate the logic of all my colleagues presented tonight. I will support the report because, as someone mentioned earlier, this is one recommendation out of a whole set of recommendations, and I don't want to vote against all of them. So I will support the report that's before us now, but I regret that I'll be part of the council that's increasing the speed in this area.
Alderman Hill?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a final comment, and I think it bears retelling, is that when we look at the measured speeds, in that section of town, that's 20 miles per hour, it is no safer right now than anywhere else in town. The speeds are the same. I wish there was a way to bring the speeds down, not just there, but everywhere. And I think that's something that this conversation hopefully will lead to, other strategies to do that. I want to maybe the traffic studies is not the right mechanism for that. Unfortunately, it's the path we've chosen. And now, without anybody's opinion here, we know exactly, well, not exactly, but roughly how fast people are driving in that neighborhood. So I hope nobody leaves us with the perception that we've made an area of town more dangerous. No, it's the same speeds there, despite having a lower speed limit than as other places in town. As for Elm Park, I'm not sure what happened exactly, and that's a good question because it's in the recommendations of the report, and I'm not sure how it remained 20, but certainly not through any discussion on PAS actively about that specific street as far as I recall. But I'm sure there was perhaps something that is an oversight there, but it's something we did do on York Street. So we have voted for this in the past. And I, for one, am glad that for whatever, better or for worse, that we're selling this issue because, again, the map shows we're going to run into it elsewhere, and maybe there is a better way to do this. But giving exceptions to certain streets because we perceive something or based on resident input is not the right way to do it. There's got to be a better way, and I hope we can make it safer everywhere.
Alderman Nudera.
I think it's, you're hard-pressed to challenge 30-plus years of residents' experience when you contrast that with a 3-day traffic study. I think years on the street by the residents gives them a voice. And my issue with the traffic study is based on the term recommendation. I really don't see that moving the speed to 25 is going to take away the consistency because we're going to have other traffic studies. I've argued the fact that Villette west of York is 20 on a winding road. The possibility of have 20-mile-an-hour streets should be there. And if in fact the minority report goes forward, which it has, we should look at some of these things independently. And I think it's hard-pressed for us to paint with a broad brush and make an opinion on a 3-day study when there's been 30 years of residents observing the issues that they see on a daily basis. I just want to make that clear. I support the majority report. There's a lot of, well, now the new majority report, there's a lot of good things in there. There are some things that we need to look at, and I think Alderman Hill brought up a good point. Maybe it's time for a referral or two to really look at these things thoroughly from our point of view, and more importantly, our residents. Thank you.
All right, and I want to remind you, we're not debating the majority-minority report. We're just talking about the merits of the report that's before us. Alderman Park.
Thank you. I just want to explain that being things as they are now, I will be voting in favor of the new majority report because I will not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And even though I do not support that one recommendation, and I wish I too echo, I regret that I have to be a part of a council that is not keeping that grandfathered in, even though I'm hearing council members say that maybe we should do 20 miles per hour everywhere, then why not keep it 20 miles per hour where it is? But we can talk about that at a later date, so I just want to explain why I'm changing how I'm voting.
Did you have, all right, Alderman Brennan.
Thank you. So, as I said earlier, I trust the process, and I really value the comments that my colleagues most recently stated the support of the new report. I agree, there are a lot of good things in the report. That was one of the points that I made, that we're just looking to overrule one recommendation from the consultant. So it'd be foolish of me to vote against the report just for that one item. So I will be supporting this report.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? I will actually have a comment, but I think I'll wait till after the vote. So if anyone else has a comment or question, Clerk Tamer. Alderman Irby.
Thank you, Mayor, for recognizing me. One of the key points in the report was, and you come back to, when I say the report, the KOLA traffic study, the report before us tonight comes down to an ask. And it says, we think we have the money to replace the signs, the new stop signs, and then we have the money to replace the yields to stops in this region. And in the KOA study, they highly recommended that we use the radar feedback signs. The key word there is signs. So we're going to put up a sign that says stop. We could put up a sign that says 25 miles an hour, 20 miles, or 50 miles an hour. The point of that is it will measure the speed and help the residents on Argyle. It could help the residents on Eggleston. It can help the residents on Seminole, the three that are non-compliant in the KOA study. And we really could get down to what's the fix for the residents over there. And that is to make these streets safer by allowing the driver to realize that they're going too fast and that this is the speed limit. And instead of them going 40 miles an hour on Seminole, maybe we can get them down to 25 miles an hour and get the average down to 21. Maybe we can get it down to our goal of Mitchell Avenue, which has 18 is the average. That would be my goal. So that would be my question to staff. Do these radar traffic signs fall into the definition of what we're proposing tonight on either report, which is now the single report that we talk about tonight?
I'm not sure that we're going to open it up to staff and sort of go down that road. At this point, we're going to adopt the report or not for what it says. It doesn't mean that there's a lot of work to be done if the report passes. If it doesn't, there's even more work to be done. So, yeah, we can certainly talk to you about it offline with staff.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to ask Clerk Tamer to call the roll.
Cahill.
Aye.
Toludo. Aye. Park.
Aye.
Nudera.
Aye.
Bastido.
Aye.
Nardini. Absent. Brennan.
Aye.
Irby.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Varimus.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Schenko.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. The report passes. I want to thank all the aldermen for your thoughtful participation. You know, sometimes something like this comes up on the dais and there's a lot of strong feelings. The report, in my opinion, is a good report, irrespective of what your feeling is on 20 or 25 miles an hour on those streets. Irrespective of how it turned out, I would have said, and I was actually thought I was going to get to vote to break a tie tonight, but didn't get that opportunity. But enforcement is something that we have to talk about. Just because the report says it's going to be 25 doesn't mean we're not going to look at a number of things as we need to do throughout town. Someone spoke, who is speeding throughout town? We are. And I think my front porch newsletter talked about trying to find ways to heighten awareness once again. I've talked to the police chief about resources. You know, as you may or may not know from your years on the council, it's been very difficult to get to full staff in our police department. And we have a lot of activity going on in town, keeping us not only safe from traffic, but from other things as well. And as we get more fully staffed, we'll look at more increased enforcement, increased awareness on our residents, a campaign to do that, and to look at calming devices. So I wanted to assure the aldermen who are up here and struggling with the vote and maybe feeling like you didn't get what you wanted exactly. It doesn't mean we're not mindful as a council together of what we need to do to stay on top of this, and to say that to the residents too. So again, thank you all for your thoughtful consideration. That concludes that item. We'll move on to reports and recommendations of elected and appointed officials. Mayor Levin, I have a number of announcements. First, Congressman Chuy Garcia will be here for a town hall on Thursday, September 5th. Doors open at 5:15. There'll be an art competition ceremony, and the town hall will start at 6:30 p.m. This weekend will be Elmhurst's annual Rock the Block celebration in our city center, also known as York High School's largest class reunion. Thank you to Tom Paravola, Christy Sopko, and their staff for coordinating this event, which has been very well known and very successful. 17 local Elmhurst residents and food establishments will be selling their delicious food there. City Center has coordinated food beverage sales, and it will run from 4 to 11 Friday night, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Saturday, so please come down and enjoy this free weekend event, our last bit of summer weather. On September 11th, as we remember the 2001 attack on the United States, the city of Elmhurst is proud to dedicate a new First Responders Memorial located at the front lawn of Fire Station Number 2, which is the one that's at South York Street. We invite all the aldermen and the community to join us at 9 a.m. for a dedication of this sculpture that's made with a piece of the rail that ran beneath the Twin Towers and was given to Elmhurst Fire Department. Local sculptor Jason Piat has created a vibrant, multifaceted sculpture to memorize the fateful day of 9/11. I think most of us have seen the design. It'll be very exciting to see it actually unveiled. Saturday, the 14th, is the Heritage Foundation 9th Annual Craft Beer Fest located in the History Museum grounds. Thank you to Kathy Jordan and her team for coordinating this event, which promotes programming at our historical museum. The event runs from 2 to 6 p.m. and tickets are available at elmhurstcraftbeer.com. I hope all of you celebrity aldermen have signed up to be celebrity pourers at that event. It's a good time and a good opportunity to meet people in the community. So we got a lot going on there. I wanted to also mention that we did pass the York Scoreboard zoning relief tonight.
We have one more to go on that.
One more to go.
Haven't done it yet.
Cancel that. We may or may not. I'll save my comment for that. Actually, my comment is, I know there's been a lot of angst and pressure. I'm sure we've all received a lot of calls, but as I've said, it's a legal process to grant zoning relief. The Zoning Commission, they are appointed, but they are appointed because they've become expert at what they do, and they are immune from political pressures. They don't have to get threatened with getting voted out at the next election. They're just supposed to do their job, and they do a very fine job. Sometimes it takes a little longer. Zoning Development and Planning Committee moved it through. Thankfully, they didn't find any issues, and so we should move on, and if it passes, or when it passes, celebrate the new scoreboard. And I thank the committee for some very thoughtful effort, as Chairman Deuter will explain then. Last, I just wanted to comment, in terms of what we do as a community. I was going to take the train downtown last Tuesday, and I saw a guy picking up garbage in front of the train station. I was trying to figure out, he wasn't wearing one of our Public Works Department and he just picked all the trash up through and sat down and opened his briefcase and started reading. And so I said, "Are you any reason?" He goes, "Just taking care of our town." And I got to say, I was a little bit touched. I said, I didn't want to brag. I said, "I'm the mayor," but I said, "I want to thank you, because this is what our community is all about, is people volunteering." So I wanted to mention that because it was remarkable to me. That concludes my remarks. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 items tonight. First, the tollway announced late last week that starting this week, there will be nightly detours of eastbound I-290 at the Tri-State Tollway. This is for beam work that will happen, and it'll continue into mid-September, so there will be full closures and detours multiple nights. We do have information on our website. You can always go to the Illinois Tollway site as well to get updates on when and where that's happening exactly. And then the other item is an update on the downtown plan. We will hold a community open house on September 11th from 6:30 to 8:30 at City Hall. This is open to everyone and is an opportunity to drop in and ask questions from the project team, learn more about the vision and goals, functional sub-areas, and the preliminary plan memo before the draft downtown plan is prepared. And for more information, you can visit the project website, which is elmhurst.org/downtown plan update. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. Any other reports? All right, we're moving on to ordinances. Clerk Tamer, Ordinance 8.1, please read the ordinance.
An ordinance granting an amended conditional use permit to the property commonly known as 355 West St. Charles Road, 360 West St. Charles Road, Elmhurst, Illinois. See item 6.12.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. See item 5.12.
See item 5.12. All right. Motion to bring this before council. Alderman Deuter moves to approve, second by Alderman Varamus. Alderman Deuter.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance follows a report that was approved earlier on the consent agenda. The report included a provision to allow the report and ordinance to be approved tonight at the same meeting. The ordinance before us now approves a request from District 205 for zoning relief in order to replace the existing scoreboard at York Stadium. Specifically, the request is for an amended conditional use permit for an accessory structure that includes an LED video display scoreboard. Height and setback variations are also part of the request. Details of the discussion and the conditions are included in the report. I do want to say that the participants in the zoning process included District 205 staff, parents of students, and neighbors. I expect that participants who were unfamiliar with the city's zoning process gained a better understanding and appreciation of the steps in the process, from the Zoning and Planning Commission to the city's Development Planning and Zoning Committee to the full council, supported by city staff along the way. This is the same process that's followed for every zoning case, regardless of whether the project is residential, commercial, or public. I'd like to thank everybody who was involved, city staff, members of the Zoning and Planning Commission, District 205 staff, and all the members of the public who provided input. The outcome is better because of this input, and I ask for the council's support. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Deuter. Additional discussion? Clerk Tamer?
Cahill.
Aye.
Toludo.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Nudera.
Aye.
Bastido.
Aye.
Nardini, absent. Brennan.
Aye.
Irby.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Varimus. Hill.
Aye.
Schenko.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. The ordinance passes. On to resolutions. 9.1. Clerk Tamer, please read the resolution.
A resolution authorizing the issuance of a notice of award and contract to J. Gill and Company for the Adele Adelaide Parking Structure Maintenance Repairs Project, see item 5.13.
We have a motion to bring 513 before the council. Alderman Bastido with a motion to approve, and Alderman Cahill with a second.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this was the same Adele Adelaide parking structure maintenance that was discussed earlier. We thank you for voting to suspend the rules. There were some negotiations that saved us money but put the project a little behind, so we asked to suspend the rules.
All right, any other discussion? Clerk Tamer?
Cahill.
Aye.
Toludo.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Nudera, absent. Oh, sorry, you're here.
Oh, there he is, there he is. All right.
Bastido.
Aye.
Nardini is absent. Brennan.
Aye.
Irby.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Varimus.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Schenko.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. That's Nardini absent.
Nardini is
All right.
absent.
9.2, resolution. Clerk Tamer?
A resolution approving the City of Elmhurst application for grant funding from the Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program for the construction of Crestview Avenue, Indiana Street, and Van Auken Street sidewalk improvement, see item 5.14.
Right, a motion to approve this one. Alderman Bastido with a motion, second Alderman Cahill. Alderman Bastido.
Thank you, Mayor. So we're applying for funds through ITEP for the sidewalk project at Crestview, Van Auken, and Indiana. To meet grant deadlines, you approved the suspension of the rules, so thank you very much. Happy to take questions.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Clerk Tamer?
Cahill.
Aye.
Toludo.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Nudera.
Aye.
Estido.
Aye.
Arditi absent. Brennan.
Aye.
Irby.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Varimus.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Schenko.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. Resolution 9.2 passes. Item 10, other business. Is there any other business to be brought before the council this evening? Alderman Hill?
Thank you, Mayor. I know I've been a little quiet tonight, so I'll try to keep this brief. I just want to take a moment to thank staff and the police department for putting out a very handy flyer regarding scooters, e-bikes, and other electric conveyances on our street. I want to acknowledge that we've been hearing, at least I've been hearing, and anecdotally I've been hearing from other aldermen, speaking of safety, an issue tonight, that electric vehicles on our streets, the two-wheel kind, are an item of concern lately, and I've been hearing a lot about it from residents, and the laws are recently changed here and there and confusing in terms of what can be on sidewalks and what requires a driver's license. But I will say that the flyer has been posted on social media, and Chief, I don't mean to put you on the spot, or maybe this is a question for Cassandra, but do we know other places that flyer and information might be available? Thank you. So I appreciate all that work as I try to figure out what's legal and what's not myself these days. So thanks again.
Is there any other business? All right, seeing none, we go on to item 11, adjournment. We have a motion to adjourn. Alderman Schenk with a motion, Alderman Brand with a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Thank you for your hard work tonight. We're adjourned.